Well, good afternoon, gentlemen. I want to introduce myself. My name is SLeonard. I'm a manager of workforce development and education here at the Digital Foundry. We're going to walk through chapter 8 in your book, which is going to be the user interface of the collaborative robot tablet. Okay. Unlike the other robot that we have, which uses what they call a teach pendant, this is actually a tablet that allows us to do the things with the robot that are more user-friendly and enable us to be able to kind of do some pretty neat drag-and-drop programming. So, the Teach Pendant, tablet Teach Pendant, has a UI display, user interface display, as you can tell here, and it's broken up into a couple of sections. It has its status bar, menu display, and that's up here at the top. Then it has a panel display bar, and that's in the middle. And that usually is where you have the programming language, which is basically the icons that you drag up, and I'll show you that here in a little minute, as well as a graphic of the actual robot, which can show a number of things. That could include things like joint movement, or it could include things like Cartesian movement, or X, Y, and Z axis movement, okay? And then below, you will have all the different icons and a couple of diagrams showing what those icons are for creating a program. And you'll have a programming tab and a details tab, which I'll get to in a little bit. And at the bottom, you have the screen display operation section. All right. So that's all going to be on this unit. So let me turn this on and we'll go through. Takes a little bit of time to warm up. So when that warms up, as I get into some of the other things, that will be great. Any questions so far? Okay. So let's talk about the status bar. That's at the top. That's probably the most important thing that you need to be aware of. It has the display menu here, number 1, and that's where you can access all the different subcommands and subroutines that you need to use to be able to create a program, to be able to set up the robot, be able to put together the inputs and outputs, as well as how you can manage your files, how you save files, and do those kinds of things. And I'll get into that in a little bit. We're not going to go into the deep dive of that. That will be in another chapter. 2 is the program name and icon to change the selected program. So you could access different programs up here. You'll see the upside down arrow, and that can get you to maybe switching out different programs as you go. 3 displays the program in use and the line being executed. So like the handling tool, traditional robot from FANUC, you have lines of code. And here you have similar kinds of things, except you're looking at icons of code that go through and allow you to be able to see where you're at on your program. Okay. 4 is the system display, and its state displays the system state, and that includes things like the speed. So for instance, 10% means that you're operating at 10% of the maximum speed. And then next to that, it kind of infers that you're in auto mode, followed by that the robot is in the position to be able to program it. And last but not least, enabling, disabling the tablet TP. That's very important, because you can turn off the tablet, and I'll show you here in a minute. That's this guy right up here. I can access certain elements in code or certain commands in here, but I cannot operate and move the robot. That has to be enabled. So I will select that, and we're going to cover that here in a minute. And then I will have to reset the system because it's in an error mode or fault mode. But that's what that does. Now you hear it whine, and that means I've enabled the robot to be able to move. All right, the status bar icon details. The hamburger, what I call the hamburger chart, it displays one of 2 menus, the tablet user interface menu or the compatible menu, which is similar to the iPendant menu that you may have learned when you were going through handling tool. And that's the one with the user iPendant kind of system where you had the dead man switch, all right? So if I were to look at this and hit this, I've got all these different commands. If I wanted to switch it over to the eye pendant, I would have to do that. So that expands the program. And then I can determine what the eye pendant is. And you can get the controls down here. All right. The back arrow navigates back to the previous screen. And the front arrow display goes to the next screen that you've had. And then finally, this portion down here where it says test displays the program name being edited. All right. So it opens the select program screen when the icon on the right of the program name is pressed. That's the icon to the right of the program name. The program name there is test. So the teach pendant also has additional icons that you can see here. This explains the different operational modes. This is in auto mode. T1 means teach 1, T2 means teach 2. Those are two different modes, and we'll get into those in a little bit. Those are the modes typically that you can actually teach the robot what to do. Then you can display the current execution status of the program, such run, then a stop, and then a pause, and so on. And then this also displays in the current, this displays the test execution status of the program. So that goes into execution, single step execution, pause, and end. So the single step is this guy, goes one step at a time. And as we talked about, the teach pendant enable is this button. So if you've got a slash through, it's not enabled. When you press it with your finger, you will be enabled. So I talked about the robot graphic. It displays a graphic image of the robot. The graphics will change depending on the robot position and status. It's always useful to look at this when you're programming a robot or jogging the robot or moving the robot. Program line talks about how you can start to drag and drop. So you can drag and push the unit up, and you can create a program along the way. So there's things like the type of movement I'm going to go through, such as joint or such as linear, as well as grippers that can open and close, as well as the means to be able to have a program repeat itself, and so on. But those are all covered in here, and that will be taught on another day. Then we go down to the lower part where you see all the icons here. You've got the icon palette and the instruction details. So programming is the tab on the screen that will display the icon palette, and that's this. All right. And that allows you to be able to select the right icon for what it is you're trying to program. Instruction details on that screen display allow the setting of the specific icon that you have. So let's say you drag an icon like this up, and let's say it is a linear movement. You can then go in and go into the details of that linear movement. And you can adjust things like what type of movement. Is it fine? Is it continuous? These are the kinds of things that you had learned when you went through the handling tool. Okay? And at the bottom we have the robot operation. And this is where you can look for how the robot can be manipulated or moved. And we're going to get that in another section. So my colleague is going to talk to you about movement, or what we call jogging in the robot, because there's a number of ways to do that. And the play tab. So it's found in the display bar here, and it allows you to go through and execute and run your program as you go, as well as allows you to do that in step mode, which is one at a time, program that way. So why don't we come up here, and I'm going to have you walk through this, and I can answer your questions. So come on both up. Go back. So why don't you take it, and I'll have both of you do that. And you want to call up the menu, right? Menu's up at the top. All right, and you can see all of these things. So if you want to expand them, you hit those triangle points. That shrinks it. Yep, that expands it. You can go through here. You can see where things are. Yep. Now this has already been done, but you get to see where it is, and you can back out of that. Yep. You don't have to call this up. You can pin this. So once you pin it, so it doesn't necessarily disappear. Go look at uTool payload setup. This allows you to program in the specific payload that you want the robot to handle. So entering the schedule number, so you have to set up a schedule for each payload, the payload mass, there's a couple of those there, measurement at position, and so on.
And these ones going to go up to 10 kilograms, right?
Yeah, but yeah, it's 10 kilograms. The rating fluctuates a little bit. It might go a little heavier, it might go a little lighter. You're dealing with this robot, a payload on average of probably 0.2 to 0.4 kilograms at any one time, maybe 5. It all depends on what you're going to do. Okay. So once you back out of that, all right, and then look at force coordinate. Okay, you've got a couple of things that are already in here. These are things that can be programmed in that you can save. And then the other thing, you look at safety DCS, for instance. It's not set up at the moment, it's thinking, but you can look at joint position, speed, all those kinds of things. And you can apply a different parameter for the DCS if you need to. The robot's DCSs are pretty much set to a good safe factor, if you will. That's essentially how you navigate. Now, if you want to go back and navigate to the other things, once you unpin it, yeah, and and then there you go. If you look at, why don't we give this over to Marcel? This is how you can navigate through the various sub-tabs. Like if you hit programming, which you have, you can scroll up and down here. Those are all the icons currently loaded on the robot. If you put in additional tooling, okay, they'll generate their own icon, and that's essentially called, here, let me do this, those are plugins. So plugins, there's a number of them on here already that you can install, and we've got the Shunk gripper here that is a plugin.